You know, the other day I joked that not having a functioning Congress wasn't necessarily a bad thing because they can't spend any of our money. But you see, there needs to be a well-functioning House and Senate because we have a real constitutional crisis that demands our attention. The fight over the speakership hasn't just stepped on what should have been a victory lap for the GOP this week, and it's more than just the result of years now abrogating Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment. It should underscore the importance of the legislative branch. Remember during Obama's presidency, the Senate didn't even pass a budget for 3 years at one point? Republicans need to take a stand now to assert the power and the influence of the people's House. Why is that? Well, the left in this country wants an unaccountable, almost dictatorial federal executive. Joe Biden loves to talk about so-called threats to democracy. Well, of course, we don't live in a democracy, we live in a republic, but details on little things like that have never exactly been his strong suit. But the real threat, the real constitutional crisis, is the unchecked power of the executive branch of our government. The Constitution created a government with checks and balances. Now, since the New Deal and the explosion of the welfare state, the size, scope, cost, and sheer power of one branch, the executive branch, has expanded many times over, now impacts every aspect of our lives. We no longer have three co-equal branches of government. We haven't had that in a long time, but a diminished Congress means no restraints on executive power. Joe Biden wants you to talk about threats to democracy. He wants Americans to think it's conservatives and extremists and white supremacists who are imperiling freedom. He doesn't want you to talk about the executive branch's regulations and activities that threaten things like religious freedom, unconstitutional restrictions on freedom of speech and the press, digital fascism, the right to a speedy trial. We certainly haven't seen that when it comes to some of the January 6th rioters. Spying on Americans' purchases, efforts to monitor your bank accounts, even new funding that will support research to create artificial intelligence programs to monitor your social media accounts for what the left calls microaggressions. There's the ChemBio research that we fund in other countries, and the revolving door of special interests into and out of federal agencies. Then, of course, the executive branch's total abdication of its responsibility to protect the territorial sovereignty of the United States. Millions are coming across the border. Immigration laws are completely ignored. The executive branch under Obama and Biden shackled the country with commitments to international accords that could have a profoundly negative impact on our economy. The ability for the executive branch to create agencies and offices by the dozen that spend trillions with little oversight continues to grow. Americans should consider, at this point, that it is actually in the interest of the executive branch. It is in the interest of the deep state. It is in the interest of the American left that we see economic meltdown, social disorder, spikes in violent crime, cultural upheaval, and even the mental health crisis that is spiraling out of control. All of those things, to one degree or another, mean more power for the executive branch. The breakdown of our national unity is a goal of left-wing government as well, because it can only result in bigger government taking more control over every aspect of our lives. All of those things are a far greater threat to the republic than the January 6th rioters or anything that Joe Biden sees as a present threat. So, welcome Speaker McCarthy and the 118th Congress. The executive branch is out of control, so get to work. We need a functioning Congress and courts to counter this threat. And we need this new year to be one of bold vision and courage, not to get a title or two in the House, but to right the ship of state and address the real constitutional crisis of our time, the dictatorship of the federal executive that today bears no resemblance to the one envisioned by our framers in Article 2 of the Constitution.
No crooked establishment.
None of that twisting the truth.
No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They let
me decide.
Newsmax.
real news
For real people.